Hi, I'm Whitney Lauritsen, and thank you so much for coming to the EVG Venture channel, which is all about sharing the tips that I learn along my entrepreneurial journey, building an online brand. I run a brand called Eco Vegan Gal, and I've been doing that since 2008. And as I've learned how to turn this into an actual online business, online brand, a lot of people come to me asking for tips on how they can do that as well. I hear from bloggers, from YouTubers, from people on social media, wanting to know how they can turn their work into a brand, how they can do it full time too. And it's really one of my greatest joys, helping people do that. So today I'm launching a brand new series where I work with somebody live, one-on-one, right in front of you, and we go through the challenges, the obstacles that they're facing, and figure out a strategy that's going to help them really launch off to even greater success, uncover anything that's holding them back. Today, I'm so excited. We have Stephanie here, and her brand is VeegMama. Is it Veg or VeegMama? That's one thing I'd love to clarify, number one. So if you can give us a quick introduction to your brand and the correct pronunciation, that'd be a phenomenal place to start, Stephanie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
My brand is VeegMama,
Okay.
like short for vegan, Veeg, but just spelled with two E's. And it's a vegan lifestyle brand that fuels my passion for living compassionately and deliciously. And I'm also the host of YouTube's The Good Life with VeegMama, which is a vegan lifestyle cooking show. And I have an ebook. It's a bestseller on Amazon, VeegMama's Guide to Going Vegan. And I just launched my first children's book, Not a Nugget.
Excellent. Wow, you're up to a lot of things. That's so great. How long have you been doing this?
I just had my 3-year anniversary with VeegMama.
Oh, wow, that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about everything?
I'm very excited and joyful about the whole, about everything. It kind of just has like a mind of its own, it seems like. So I think for the most part, I'm excited. I feel like every day is a surprise or an adventure. But overall, it's all positive. I think I do have some nervous reservations about growing and how to keep up the momentum. I guess we probably all have that. But for the most part, it's pretty positive.
Yes. Well, you have such a great energy around you. I remember we met through Vita Vegan Con, which is this vegan bloggers conference that sadly is over at this point, at least for now. But that was just earlier this year. And I remember I had seen you online before I actually met you, and I just thought, wow, like you just seem so radiant, you seem so confident, you seem like you are really clear on what's going on with your brand and all that. And when I met you in person, you're just even sweeter than I imagined, and I just love that. I think it's so great to really put a personality behind who you see online, really get a chance to get to know people. And that's actually a really great tip that I want to start off with is the more that you can show who you are and your authentic self behind your brand, the more people will feel connected to you. I've really experienced that firsthand. So much of my career, I thought that I had to be like this perfect person and put out this great image of professionalism, but actually more success has come to me, more people have wanted to be involved with what I do, the more authentic and real I was. So the more I could just get in front of the camera and just show who I really am, aside from like being polished and prepared and all of that, the more that I could go to events like Vita Vegan Con where we met and really interact with people, the more drawn in they were to things. And I think that that's a perfect example, because when I met you, it just elevated everything that I thought of you. So that would probably be my first tip, is to keep going to events like that and to keep doing your on-camera work on YouTube. Are you using Periscope yet?
No, and that's one of my things on my list that I should be doing, but I'm scared I've like been watching everybody to like kind of be like, okay, what is this? What I do? But I'm very nervous, which is so funny because I've done the videos, right? Which, I mean, this should be easier, right? Because you just get to be like, go by the seat of your pants, but it's terrifying me.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. A lot of people are nervous about it. How about Snapchat?
No, I haven't done Snapchat either. Neither one.
I think that those would speak really well to you. My first question, before we really dive into that 15 minutes of focus, what is holding you back aside from just feeling a little nervous? Is it time? Is it overwhelm? Is there anything else going on with those that you wouldn't just jump in and do them?
Well, I mean, I think the time thing is always there. Like, where do you focus your energy? But actually, what you just said really speaks to where I think I'm coming from, is feeling like I have to be really polished and have like a plan. And I really love what you just said. It really spoke to me and put a lot of to ease to think, okay, wait, I can just go with it and be myself. And it's okay if I mess up and I'm not perfect, because I'm not.
Yes, exactly. I think that's so huge. Right now, I've been really into Brene Brown, who does all this work on vulnerability. She wrote this phenomenal book that's received so much praise called Daring Greatly. And I've only read maybe like 20 to 50 pages of it so far, and it's incredible. But I've also been listening to her a lot on podcasts, and a huge part of her message is just about being vulnerable and how that really draws people in, because we all have this desire to be authentic. We have this desire to see other people be vulnerable because that gives us permission to be vulnerable ourselves. And I think specifically with your brand, Stephanie, it's so much about that positivity and upliftment and about helping people in some similar positions. The more you could be just vulnerable and just show yourself wherever you are at that moment, the more people would be really drawn to you because you're giving them permission to do the same thing. And I didn't realize that for so long, but over the past few years, the more I've opened up and just shown who I really am, the more people feel connected to me. And one quick trick for you around that is that you can actually be a different side of you with a few different platforms. So for me, I kind of go overboard with it. I have 5 different YouTube channels, and every YouTube channel shows a different side of me. So I have my main channel where I feel more polished and I think about things, I plan, lighting's right, all of that. But my other channels, including even this one falls a little bit more on the polished side of it. But my other 2 channels, What a Vegan Eats and the Uncensored channels, are really where I strive to just be myself wherever I am at that moment. And people actually like those channels. Sometimes I think even better than my other channels because they feel more connected. And it's really challenging sometimes because, like, for me, it brings up insecurities of like, oh, if my hair's not right, or my makeup's not good, or I'm not wearing makeup, or I'm not wearing the right outfit. So many things that go through our head. But when you strip those away, you realize how superficial they are. And at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people and getting a message across. And when you just like strip away all that stuff and just say, I'm just going to be where I am at this moment because I'm inspired to create content, you'll find this freedom and this excitement and realize that most people actually prefer that over the polish. So for you, you already have this YouTube channel where you're doing, what you might consider polished work there. Periscope and Snapchat could be your unpolished places where you can just show up and say, hey, I'm out with the kids right now. This is what we're doing. Or, hey, I'm making a quick recipe or whatever. We'll dig more into some opportunities there. And same with Snapchat. I mean, Snapchat actually thrives off the authentic. People want to see the behind the scenes on Snapchat, and it's never perfect for anybody. If it is, I think that actually is more of a turnoff. Snapchat thrives on that like authentic, spur of the moment, unedited version of people's lives. So once you just give yourself permission to it, I think those will come with ease and grace for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's a really great place to start off on. I didn't mean for us to launch into that part, but sometimes it just flows.
Yeah.
So for everybody watching, what we're doing here is we're going to actually spend 15 minutes dedicated. So very focused 15 minutes. And the inspiration for the 15 minutes came from one of the people that I follow online, which is Pat Flynn. And he actually partnered up with a guy named Chris Ducker, and they do this thing called One Day Business Breakthrough. It started off as a live event, and now they do this podcast, and I recommend it for everyone. And by the way, anything that we refer to today will be linked down below. So including the books that I mentioned, podcasts, websites, all of that, including all of Stephanie's links, because I recommend everyone follow her to support her and all of that and connect with her further. But, Pat really inspired me because with the One Day Business Breakthrough, they do these 15-minute sessions, and they're really neat because when you tie them down to this 15 minutes moments, they feel like super powerful, as opposed to when you give yourself like an hour or more, you can go in so many different directions. But I'm actually going to set a timer. We're going to stick to it. We're going to end wherever that ends, and we're just going to get out as much as we possibly can in that time. It's also inspired by something that I'm doing right now called the Creators Community. A few of you might have heard me talk about this because I've been slowly getting the word out, but starting as something super small right now, and it's been this incredible group that has been running for a few months, and it's all based on other content creators doing just this. Every month we meet, once a month right now, but eventually we'll be moving to twice a month through Google Hangouts, just like this. And it's a small group of people. We get together, everyone shares whatever obstacles they're working on or successes, whatever they want to talk about that time, and they each get about 15 minutes to get some feedback on it so that they can grow. And it's just been like the most magical experience to witness people and how they have these aha moments in those 15-minute periods of time. So that's the inspiration behind this. So for no further ado, let's jump right in. I want to start off with some things that I asked Stephanie to prepare beforehand. And this is something that you as a viewer can do on your own right now to help you start growing through things. I sent Stephanie a set of questions to get her mind going to start to think about things. And a lot of these might be information that Stephanie might not want to share. It's private. It's not really necessarily meant to be shared. But I'd love for you, Stephanie, if there were any like little nuggets of wisdom or little elements that you would like to share with us that gives us more insight into who you are and what you're working on right now. So the first thing I asked is, what do you do? Why do you do what you do? And what is your purpose of your brand and your business? Then I asked, how is your work different from your quote unquote competitors? I don't really like to look at people as competition, but that's the easiest word to describe it sometimes. People are doing something similar as you. And what makes you unique? What are your biggest strengths, skills, and qualities? What is your number one goal, and when do you want to reach it by? How do you want people to remember you? What does your perfect day look like? How will you feel? What will you be doing? Who are you with? What passions are you fulfilling that day? What people and brands do you admire and why? Who do you consider a big shot in your field? What feels like it's standing in the way of reaching your goals? What are your biggest fears and insecurities when it comes to your career? Are there things you feel like you should be doing and are not? So Periscope and Snapchat were two of those things. And what strategies have you tried and not worked? So for each of you watching, you can kind of pause this if you want and write down that brainstorming. It's amazing what you can uncover when you start to answer these questions. So were there any things that came up for you, Stephanie, that you wanted to share while answering these for yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty open, so I'll answer whatever you want me to. And thank you. This was so helpful. These questions were I'm so grateful. Okay.
Have you ever done anything like that before? Have you ever
I have, but it's been about 6 months since I've done that, and it made me go, oh wait, I need to do this more often.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't, like right now, kind of where I'm at. I just hit my 3rd year anniversary with the blog, and I just launched a children's book last month. And so you're in like this rhythm, and you don't stop and think like, wait a minute, this is kind of a good time to, okay, you hit these goals. Now, where do we want to go from here? Because there's so much going on that I'm kind of like, so it's easy to get lost in the day to day. And I think it's important to remember, as we're achieving our goals, we should start thinking about the next goal. Mm-hmm. I mean, within reason.
Absolutely. Well, are there any quick little bullet points that you wanted to share, some answers that you were uncovering there?
So as far as my what I want to do, that was really great I think if everyone can like kind of distill that into a sentence. And so what I came up with was make vegan living accessible, easy, and fun for families. I've moved more into family focused, and one of the questions was something about what's holding you back or what are you afraid of? And I think I recently just stepped into, and this also goes along with how is my work different? I have a vegan omni household. My kids and husband are not vegan. And I was scared. I've been so scared to say that because I feel I've had a lot of conflict about it. I've been vegan 6 years. I was vegetarian for 5 before that. And I ate meat in between for 4. So I have a little bit of shame, I think, of why I went back and ate meat and then came vegan and not knowing how the vegan community was going to accept me. A lot of because I don't have a strong vegan community in my immediate social circle. My friends and family are not vegan. They are very loving and accepting of who I am, and they love my food, and it's been great. It's been a journey, but so I'm always a little shy about saying that. And I do all the cooking and shopping in the house. So my kids eat vegan at home, but I won't go into, I know we only have 15 minutes, but that's been something that's been holding me back. So what I recently have done is stepped into that persona and just said, this is how it is. This is who I am. And the more, I mean, it's amazing the love and response I've gotten from people, because I also didn't realize a lot of my followers are not necessarily vegan. They're just moms who want to live a little healthier, get their kids to eat more vegetables, whatever it might be, where I'm good for them. Like whatever I'm saying seems to help them. Or they want to be vegan, but for whatever. So that has been huge for me. And I think it's kind of set me apart. Also that I'm kind of just like this mom next door. I'm not like fancy. This isn't my background. Like I have a marketing background. That's one of my strengths. I'm a writer. I love to write. That's one of my strengths. So I'm accessible. I'm real. I'm like, this is me. Like I'm not trying to make it fancier than I am. So I don't know. Is that good?
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That gives us a lot to go off of. I guess then, I mean, that really summarizes a lot here. The two things that I want to know right before we start off in that 15 minutes is what people and brands do you admire, and what is your number one goal?
Okay. So that was a great question. I'm so glad you had me think about that too, because that's also has changed in the 6 months since I did this exercise. And also I think my goal has expanded. So the brands that I love and admire are Drina Burton, Plant Powered Mama Families, Fork and Beans, Colleen Patrick Goudreau, I adore her. And Weelicious is a mom brand as well. So those are my big ones that I kind of look to and inspire me. And what was the second question, Whitney?
What's your number one goal?
Oh, my number one goal. Okay. So my number one goal, I'm just going to read it because it's easier for me. Okay. Create a multimedia brand with cookbooks, my blog, my kids' books. I have so many more kids' books in me that I've drafted. I'd love to be on Food Network and be a mom vegan who's like, we don't have any vegan shows on Food Network, and either like a column in Veg News or some type of magazine where there's a vegan family mom voice. I'd also love that brand to include meal delivery plans and maybe some kind of cooking meal kits. Because again, my goal is to make vegan living accessible, fun, and easy for families. And I want to get everybody cooking and having fun again. I feel like we've gone away from the kitchen, and I want it to be easy and accessible for people. So that's my number one goal.
Okay. Well, hold on. I'm going to start my timer here. And we're going to dive into the official feedback, or like whatever you want to call it, strategy. Okay. So first of all, that's a lot of goals. So there's a bunch raveled into there. If you could just compress that all to just one thing, one very specific goal, what would that be?
Oh, let's see. Well, creating a multimedia brand, is that too general?
No, I think that would work, and okay. I'm on board with that as well. The next question is, if you could only do what out of all those different aspects of this brand is the most exciting and important to you? So when you say, meal delivery and books and having the Food Network show, like if you could just pick one of those, and if that was the only thing that you did, like it doesn't have to be, of course, but let's just say that it was, what would you do? Like in terms of what would be the most satisfying and what would help you reach your goal the most out of all of those? What would you focus on?
That is such a great question. I think it would either be the magazine column or the TV show.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'd be connecting with people more than I am now with just the blog. If my blog was bigger, maybe that would be okay. But I feel like I'm having a hard time getting the connection that I want and the community that I want that way.
Okay. Well, that is such a great place to start with or focus on today, because I think that says a lot. So number one, I would say the magazine column, from my perspective, is completely, everything's accessible, number one, but I think the magazine column could be a very easy goal for you, because I can see some very quick steps to it. The Food Network, I feel a little bit biased or jaded on that. I just finished reading a book, and it shared the entire story of the Food Network. And I know Jason Robel, of course, who had his show on the Food Network's cooking channel. So I have like all this inside information on there, and that's a hard one.
Okay.
So what, not impossible at all. So I think it's important to see like, all right, what are my like strong reach goals, and what are like things that I could get super easily? And depending on, do you want to work towards something that's harder, or do you want to work towards something that you might be able to get a lot easier? In that, like right off the bat, when I say getting a show on the Food Network is really challenging, there's so much involved, versus getting a column in Veg News is probably something you could accomplish pretty easily. When I give you that feedback, is there one that you go, okay, I'd rather this one than that?
Yes, the column, for sure.
Okay. Why? Because it's easier, or because as I'm talking about it, you say, you know what, I can get that, and I want to focus on that right now?
Well, two reasons. One, insecurity wise, I feel like there's like a lot that I need to learn personally before I would do a show. And I think as I'm writing the column and doing these other things, it would maybe help me build up to that. But also, I love to write, and not that it doesn't, again, it feels easier to me, but not, guess where I'm at in my life right now with my kids. And I was talking to my mom about this. Like, I'm not willing to give up certain things just yet. I have 3 kids. My youngest is 6, and then all the way up to 12, 6, 9, and 12. And I want to be there to pick them up from school. I want to be the one making their dinner. I want to be the one helping them with homework. So I'm not quite ready to give up what I think you're saying. I totally respect and appreciate what you're saying. Like, I'd have to give up probably a lot right now if I really was going to say, all right, I'm in this. Like, I am going for Food Network. Whereas the column, I think I could juggle my lifestyle and, and still work hard, obviously. But I think that feels better to me.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think you have to give up things or shift too much with the Food Network. And that could be a much longer conversation. The book is phenomenal. I have it back there, and I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head. I'll link to it when this video goes up, but it is a thick book, and it took me a while to read, but I was completely like enthralled in it because it shares like all these details. And actually, the Food Network is just very political. So that, I guess that's the easiest thing. You could probably get a show on the Food Network right now where you are with your brand. It's just a very political thing, and also a lot by luck. So my point being is sometimes that's harder to achieve because it's all about connections and timing and meeting the right people. Whereas I see the column being something that you really only have to connect like with 1 or 2 people, which I could personally connect you with. And, just start building things up and figure out what they say you need to do. That's a lot, I guess, like a quicker thing for you. And as you're mentioning with writing, you love it already. And, it's something that you could do at home while the kids are sleeping or they're at school. But I think it's a great conversation to have, that just because something is challenging and feels far away doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for it. It always comes down to what that gut instinct is and what's most exciting for you. And I think sometimes we just need time to process that and figure that out. And some days we're going to say, you know what, I just want the column in the magazine. And some days you're going to say, all I want is that Food Network show. The point here is like when you become very clear about what keeps you up at night, what is the first thing you think about in the morning, what is the thing that you're obsessively just always focused on, that is something that you should be paying attention to and really putting your efforts into it. And as exciting as it is to, have all these different passions, I can tell you firsthand that when you try to work on different projects at once and accomplish it, you get stretched out and it's harder to reach that one goal. I really think a great tactic is to just focus on one thing, because everything will start to feed into it. If you just wanted to do the Food Network, perhaps the Veg News column would actually help you get the Food Network. So instead of looking at it as the column's the end goal, you can see that as a way to get you to the Food Network. And that really helps people reduce a lot of overwhelm in their careers, is when you have that one goal. All you have to think about with everything that you do is, whatever I'm doing right now, is this working towards that one goal? So let's just right now focus. Is it the Food Network or is it the column? Like if you had to pick like an end stop, which would it be?
The Food Network show. Okay. Let's go for the big one.
You want that, right? So with that clarity, what I would do is start to strategically think, like, is everything that you're doing helping you get to the show, right? So a column could, in a way. I mean, it's challenging sometimes because we think, well, anything could help me lead to that. But the more exposure and experience you have, the more that you can actually talk about the things that would be related. Like for you, you want to envision yourself on stage, on camera at the Food Network, and think about what this show is. And in your head thinking, am I going to be talking about what it's like to be a vegan mom and do recipes? Then everything that you need to do, everything that you do needs to be related to that theme. So your column for Veg News would basically be a written version of what you would do in the Food Network. And so in addition to giving you experience and giving you a voice there, you'd be established as an authority in a wide publication, which can always help with things like that. That can also help you figure out your voice on platforms like Periscope and Snapchat, because again, you become authority, you become a recognized person, you get experience and practice, and then it becomes very natural for you to get there. Same thing goes with your YouTube channel. It's going to make the most sense for you. The more on-camera experience you have, you can build up a reel that you could show producers. You have something that just naturally leads you into it. So everything that you do, is this going to help me get closer to that Food Network show? I think it's also super important with a huge goal like that is to not be too rigid about what it is. So maybe it's not necessarily the Food Network. Maybe it would be a show on PBS, or maybe it'd be a show on Bravo. Like, does it matter to you specifically what network this would be on? Is there a reason Food Network comes to mind?
No, not at all. Yeah, you're right.
So it's more about a show.
Mm-hmm.
You want a TV show.
Yeah, I want to reach the mainstream to share how accessible veganism is.
Okay. So that's another thing to think about too, is sometimes we have this idea in our heads about a very specific thing because we've seen other people do it, or because people have told us like, well, if you really want to be famous, you need a show on the Food Network. But actually, your goal is about reaching the mainstream, and that might not be dependent on the Food Network or any other television show. It could be a bunch of different mediums, right? So this actually broadens you up to be less specific and less attached to that specific outcome. And it makes it more about, is everything that I'm doing helping reach the mainstream?
Okay.
So that's why now a column in Veg News actually might conflict with that, because Veg News isn't necessarily the mainstream. Maybe your column is in the Wall Street Journal. Maybe your column is in one of these big newspaper, or maybe like Bon Appetit, that's a magazine, right? Like any of those, I don't read those, but you know, maybe it's in Vogue like whatever it is, where the mainstream could be something outside of that box. Right? So actually, Veg News might not be the right place if your goal is the mainstream.
Yeah, you're right.
So if that is your end goal too, the other cool thing is right now we're in like the most amazing period with online media. And there are actually YouTube channels that get more views than most TV shows do. So you might not need to go on television. Perfect example is Casey Neistat. Have you been following him at all? Do you know who he is?
Say the name again?
Casey Neistat.
No, I don't know.
So he's been all over. I could go on and on about him, but just a quick summary is he's a very successful YouTuber who's not vegan, but he does daily vlogs, and he just hit it off, right? Not most people don't get this type of success on YouTube, but it resonated, and he's been all over the media in terms of YouTube, and he's got this new application and all this other stuff. But one thing that when I listen to Casey in podcasts, for example, in interviews, he always brings up the fact that he gets about 1 million views per video. And that's actually like a huge number that some TV shows don't reach per episode. And he does a new video every single day. So he is amassing this amazing audience all the time through YouTube. It's a free medium. He has complete control over it. So if you open up your mind to think you're already on YouTube, and I know YouTube can be so challenging, and that again is a much bigger conversation about cracking that code. But my point being is that you already have your platform there, And so maybe it's about twisting your message on YouTube, and that'll help you reach the mainstream a lot faster, easier, and more in your control than you would having a TV show. Because it's not the TV show that you want, it's about reaching the mainstream with your message. We also have opportunities on so many platforms now with Hulu, with Netflix, with Amazon, with HBO, all these channels that are just online or mainly creating content online. Maybe that's a better route because, again, it gives you more freedom to do what you really want to do versus trying to fit yourself into whatever box that specific, Food Network show would be on. Maybe it's about evolving your show and having it broadcast on Hulu or put on the Roku box or whatever else it is. The content that you're currently already doing could end up helping you reach your goal, is my point. So I think if you just start to focus in every day with everything that you're doing, is this helping me reach the mainstream? Is this helping me reach the mainstream? Is this going to be big? Is this going to get the word out? Then that would ultimately get you what you really want. And the Food Network is just like a route that you could take. And maybe that'll happen too, right? But that not being attached to that, being attached to your end goal about reaching the mainstream is my point.
That's fabulous. I love it. You just like opened my mind. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's amazing how time flies. We only have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So is there one last thing we should hit on in that last 2 minutes that you can summarize in like 15 seconds?
Well, so you just hit on so much and helped already. So we're golden. The only other thing I think it kind of could tie into this is, how do I focus on organizing all these different great things that you're talking about so that I'm most effective and efficient? Because I feel like, you're dividing your time up. Okay, I got to do this. Is there a way to organize?
Yeah. Well, I think it always comes down to that main goal. So with everything that you want to do, like the children's books, you have to say, is this book going to help me reach the mainstream? If the answer is yes, then you have to think about how and which of these opportunities is going to help you get there the fastest and going to resonate with you in the most passionate way, right? So if all you want to do is write a kid's book, then put all your passion into that and think about exactly how you can position it so that it does reach the mainstream. And actually, it might be helpful for you to know exactly how many people you would reach and what's the right title, the right cover for it, so that it appeals to people. Everything else is going to fall off the clearer you are about this. So for you, getting very clear on all of those little things, like maybe it's getting down to the numbers. You might want to create a spreadsheet of all of these different things that you've been thinking of doing and look at them numbers wise. Like, how many people does Veg News reach? If it's not enough, if it doesn't fall into your mainstream category, move on to another magazine that you think that you can get into or you want to get into that can reach that actual audience that you want. I think that's going to help you focus on the most, is figuring out how many people in your ideal world would you want to reach and who is it specifically. And when you know that, you'll know where to focus your energy, because you'll know what book publisher you'd want to work with if you're going to work with a book publisher, or do you want to self-publish? And if you're going to self-publish, all of your efforts are going to go into building your newsletter list and your social media. And so if that's the avenue, then it comes down to, how do you market everything you do in your newsletter and your social media to that mass audience? Maybe you need to change your name. Is the name going to reach the right audience of people? Are people going to find you with your SEO that you have set up for your website? And so it's kind of just starting to dissect all of these different things based on who exactly you want to reach and how many of them. And that'll show you, is this audience most concentrated on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest? Are they even on Periscope or Snapchat? Again, figuring out what is that age range of these people. Is it moms that are between 30 and 40? If so, they're probably not on Snapchat, so Snapchat's not going to be worth your time. They're probably going to be on Pinterest. Maybe they'll be on Facebook. And then when you figure out where they are, you figure out what exactly they're enjoying and how to reach them the most. And that will help you create all of the content around them. So you'll know exactly how to title your posts in a way that resonates with them. You'll know how to write, or you'll know how to make the videos that get them to watch it and share it and follow you. You'll know how to position your newsletter offering so that they opt into your newsletter and then you write the greatest newsletters just for them so that they stick around and they fall so in love with you. That's how any of these brands that you've loved have done very well, is they become very specific. They have specific messages and specific branding that targets the people that they want. That's how they build things up. And I think a great way to end all of this is, I think out of everybody that you mentioned, Weelicious would probably be my recommendation for you to really focus in on, because I think she's done phenomenal work with her brand. And I've seen her speak as well, and she's so intelligent. So if I were you, I think, so it was Drina, Weelicious, who are the others? There was two others. Colleen.
And who was my other one? Fork and Beans.
Okay. For sure, I think with your mission, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we're talking mainstream and we're talking like super powerful brand, I would say Weelicious is probably going to be that for you. The others I think are more in the vegan realm of things, but that I wouldn't consider that mainstream. So I would say, and no offense to them at all, but I mean, if you're talking people outside of the vegan bubble, right? We only have like 1% of the population or something that's vegan. Again, I don't know if that number is right, but it's approximate. So my point is Weelicious is probably reaching a lot more people. So if I were you, I would start right now if you can. Go and track down, like, where is she on social media? Which posts of hers are getting the most engagement? What is her newsletter opt-in like? Like, try to dissect all of that stuff, and not to copy it, but just use her as kind of your template there. And that'll help you figure out how to position your own work so that it is going to help you leverage that as well. And then you'll kind of use her as like your inspiration. But again, never copying,
right,
but using her as like, how can you put your unique skills and talent and voice into that template that she's using to reach a bigger audience. And I think when you're always considering your goal to reach the mainstream, the very specific type of person that you want to reach, and then you'll figure out all the different avenues and which ones you should focus on first. And having that list, like, okay, I know Pinterest is my number one focus. Every day, Pinterest comes first. And once I've accomplished what I need to do on Pinterest, I move on to Facebook, or perhaps I move on to my newsletter, or perhaps I move on to great content on my blog. Like, you want to put that in order, and every day it's got to go in that order. And if you don't finish that stuff, nothing else gets done. If it's your book, then nothing else matters except for writing your series of books that are going to help the mainstream. But you always want to start from the top down. And that will help you stay as focused as possible and get as close to your goal as possible the quickest.
This is fabulous, Whitney. It's so helpful.
I'm so excited. I mean, we've gone a little over, but I can't help myself sometimes. It's just so exciting to dive into this and hear about it. I could listen. And honestly, that's exactly why the creators community is there. And I'm so excited that you're going to be part of it for the next month, because for everybody else that's unfamiliar, it's really just all about this. It's like, I don't want to stop talking to people. So the creators community is this ongoing conversation. Every month we check in. You can talk with each other throughout the entire month on Google and just kind of update each other on, hey, here's what's going on, or I'm really struggling with this today, or, you know, here's a great resource I found, or I made this breakthrough, whatever it is. It's that ongoing conversation. So I'm thrilled to be able to continue that with you. And if anybody else watching wants to check it out, it's whitneylortzen.com/community. I'll link to it down below. I'd love to have you be part of this too, so that I can connect with you and we can all connect with each other. So that's it for today. Any closing words on what you want to do next, or, you know, what you're going to do immediately following this conversation?
I'm immediately going to go study and get really clear and prioritize. I think You've given me so much great stuff to do. So thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm really, really thrilled. Well, thank you to you, Stephanie, and to everybody else watching for taking the time for this today. I'm going to be doing this hopefully every week. We'll take a little while to get some momentum, I think, but every Tuesday here, the time will range, so you can always find out when these are going to happen on social media. I'll post on Facebook and Twitter for sure. Maybe eventually on Snapchat if you're on there as well. Every network that I'm on is under Whitney, or Eco Vegan Gal. My name is Whitney, but Eco Vegan Gal is all my social media. And I would love to connect with you there and see you next time here on the EVG Venture channel. Stephanie, I'm going to close out the live stream, but I'll say a quick goodbye to you once this is no longer live. So bye to everybody else. Thanks for being here today. Okay.